For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is VSiN PrimeTime. Live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas on VSiN, the sports betting network.
That's right, we're coming to you live here from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. I'm Scott Seidenberg. It is prime time here on VSiN, the sports betting network. As we get you ready for two playoff games tonight, NBA Eastern Conference Finals. Game number one from Madison Square Garden, the New York Knicks hosting the Indiana Pacers. And game one of the NHL Stanley Cup Western Conference Finals between the Edmonton Oilers and Dallas Stars from Dallas. Lines right now, as we check the market across the board, we have the Knicks as a 4.5-point favorite with a total of 222. There is a 222.5 out there in the market, but predominantly we are at 222. It's where we sit here at Circa. And again, the Knicks are a 4.5-point favorite, although reduced VIG at minus 105. And as I say that right now, money is coming in on the under. The screen has just flashed in front of me. We are at 221.5 as the line goes down from 222 to 221.5. And that is, let's see, pretty much every book in town has started to adjust now as the screen is lighting up as we are less than an hour away from tip-off at Madison Square Garden. So we're going to monitor the action as we lead up to tip-off to see where the money's going and whether or not it's going to sway the lines and the total. Coming up, we're going to be joined by our NBA analyst, Zach Cohen, who does a great job writing for VSiN.com. We'll get his take on this game, this series, and also the Western Conference Finals as well. Plus, we have to get into the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. As I mentioned, the Dallas Stars are hosting the Edmonton Oilers tonight, and your current line is Dallas, a minus 134 favorite here at Circa, and that is I guess it was a stance from where it was to where it is now because Dallas opened at minus 125. We saw money coming in on Dallas, moving them to a minus 125, minus 135, and even a minus 140 out there in the market as well. But right now here at Circa, Dallas a minus 134 favorite. Your total is 6.5, and it is juiced slightly to the under at minus 115. I think when you look at this series, and it is a dead even series, minus 110 both ways. If you're looking at DraftKings, I believe Circa here does have Edmonton as a slight favorite in the series. To me, it's correlated bets when it comes to this Stanley Cup playoffs in this Western Conference Finals. It's if you like Dallas, you like the games to go under. If you like Edmonton, you like the games to go over. It's Oilers and over, Stars and under. To me, that is the correlation. But we're going to get into that game prior to the puck dropping. We'll get you some final thoughts. I'm going to go through some of the advanced numbers to talk about how each team has dominated their opponents throughout the course of this postseason, whether it's even strength possession, shot attempts on goal, or the goaltenders rising to the occasions. Lots of analytical numbers to dive into to help us figure out who we like tonight on the ice between the Stars and the Edmonton Oilers. But I mentioned it is game one of the Eastern Conference Finals in the NBA, and that is our game of the night.
The lights are on and the stakes are high. It's the primetime game of the night.
We got more money coming in on the under. as Circa has just moved down to 220.5. So when I sat down at the seat, it was at 222, then to 221.5, now to 220.5 as money comes in on the under for game one between the Knicks and the Pacers from Madison Square Garden, where the New York Knicks are a slight favorite to win this series. And it depends on where you look, but I'm looking at DraftKings right now, Knicks minus 145 to win this series. And if you're looking at the series markets in terms of how many games there's going to be, well, the over 5.5 is a heavy favorite at minus 170. And I've seen experts, whether it's across this network or others, that say it's going to be a 7-game series and at the very least a 6-game series. That's why the over 5.5 is juiced. And a lot of people think because of how even this series is going to be, that's how long this series is going to be. If you want to bet the outcome here of this series, you can pick the Knicks to win in 6 would be plus 600. The Pacers to win in 6, that will be plus 425. The Knicks to win in 7 is your favorite at plus 400. The Pacers to win in 7 is plus 700. Or take a shot on something else, like the Knicks in 5, which is actually your third favorite at plus 475. I got to be honest, I'm having a difficult time seeing how this series plays out. Because if you look at both of these teams, they both had to overcome massive deficits in this NBA playoffs. And we could talk about how they overcame those deficits. We could talk about the opposition collapsing all we want. But the fact remains is that both the Knicks and the Pacers have been losing in their games by 20 points multiple times. And so we can't exactly say that they've dominated their opponents to get to where they are. They both upset better teams in the Cavaliers and the Celtics. And however you want to talk about how it happened, that's the reality. They both upset better teams. But they also were both, as I mentioned, trailing big in those respective series. The Pacers, they actually had 2 historic wins in this playoffs. 2 wins trailing by 7 points in the final 90 seconds. Like, that's unheard of territory. We're not talking about like just, oh, that's cool, they came back and they had a random victory. No, we're talking about historic stuff here. Coming back, being down 7 points with 90 seconds remaining. Teams just don't do that. But the Pacers did it not once, but twice in this postseason. Here it is. In the history of the NBA playoffs, trailing by 7 with less than 90 seconds left in the game, and this only goes back 20 years. The teams were 1 win and 384 losses. But the Pacers are 2-0 in this postseason in that situation. It's just crazy. Crazy. But what does that say about what we can expect from these teams? Can we expect the Pacers to be the team that they were when they were coming back and hitting their shots and hitting threes and being the team that is able to overcome a 20-point deficit? Or are they the team that was able to allow the Cavs to build up a massive 20-point deficit? Are the Knicks the team that guts it out and plays the waiting game until you finally falter? You start missing shots and they capitalize on their opportunities. Like when the Celtics missed 45 three-pointers in game number 1 of their series? Or are the Knicks the team that can keep themselves in the game until clutch time, where they have the clutch player of the year in Jalen Brunson? Ultimately, this is what decides the series for me. The Knicks have a closer, and the Pacers don't. That's the difference in this series. When the clutch moments happen, when the game is on the line, the Knicks have someone that they can go to and they can trust to make those shots, to get them that basket. And with all due respect to, Tyrese Halliburton, who's probably the most, the truest point guard, if you will, that's in this and that's left in these playoffs, he's not that guy. With all due respect to Pascal Siakam, he's not that guy. Nembhard, Turner, I just don't see it. If it comes down to the clutch moments, who do you trust more? And I trust the New York Knicks. That's the team that I trust here in these playoffs. Now let's look at some playoff data, okay? And let's see how these teams have done throughout the playoffs. If you look at defensive rating, this is amongst all teams in the playoffs, so it does include teams that have been eliminated as well. The Knicks, 5th in defensive rating in the playoffs. Pacers, all right, are 8th. Knicks with a defensive rating better than the Indiana Pacers. Offensive rating, Pacers are 2nd. They've been great. Knicks are down to 9th. So the Knicks have been the better defensive team. The Pacers have been the better offensive team. Overall net rating, Pacers are 4th. Knicks are 7th. Pacers have been the overall better net rating team. Rebounding percentage, the Knicks 8th, the Pacers 12th. Turnover percentage, well, Pacers 3rd, Knicks 7th. So Pacers less turnovers. Effective field goal percentage, Pacers number 1, hitting their shots. The Knicks 14th amongst teams here in the playoffs. Does that continue? Pace. Well, we know the Pacers are a team that plays with a quicker pace than the Knicks. 3rd compared to the Knicks, 8th. Contrasting styles, if you will. But to me, it's who you trust. I know who I trust. Who do you trust? We'll dive into it a little bit further coming up next. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Hit me up on Twitter at Scott's On Air. It's prime time right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on VSiN PrimeTime. I'm Scott Seidenberg here with you on the Sports Betting Network. Always on Twitter at Scott's On Air, SCOTTSONAIR. I talked about last segment in teasing and previewing this Knicks game against the Pacers in Game 1 of the NBA's Eastern Conference Finals. Who do you trust more? And I said that I trust the New York Knicks more, and I trust specifically Jalen Brunson, who's obviously the NBA Clutch Player of the Year. But let's just get some numbers to back up that trust. I talked to you about all the advanced numbers that the Pacers have been a little bit better than in the Knicks, especially offensively. But in terms of the clutch moments in these playoffs, the late close situations, if this series is as even as it is lined to be, we got a 4.5-point spread in this game tonight. To minus, and it's even a reduced vig to the 4.5. So you got to pay juice if you want to take the plus 4.5. We have money coming in on the under. So people expecting it to be the market, expecting it to be a defensive battle. Lower scoring game. The series is closely priced. If we expect it to be close, it's going to come down to clutch minutes. The Knicks in this playoffs have played more clutch minutes than anybody. 36 clutch minutes in these NBA playoffs. The Pacers, only 16 minutes of clutch time in this playoffs. Listen, it's all fun and games when you're winning by margin. And that's awesome. But in a series and in a game that is expected to be close, late, can you get yourself to a victory? 36 clutch minutes for the Knicks in these playoffs. 8 games qualified for them in the clutch moments. Out of those situations, they were 10 of 24 from three-point range, 30 of 64 from the field in general, 32 rebounds, 10 assists. Pretty good. Pacers, in their limited time, 16 minutes, 6 of 13 from three-point range. Good percentage, almost 50%, 47, 46%. They had only 15 rebounds, but 15 rebounds in the 16 minutes, if we double it, it's pretty much the same. It's like 30 rebounds in the 32 minutes, right? If we double it to give them what the Knicks almost had. And let's see, 7 assists, all right, good assist numbers. No turnovers, that's good. 4 steals compared to the Knicks' 8 steals. But again, if we double the minutes, it's going to be kind of even with each other. So if we think about it, does playing more clutch minutes give you confidence that you could come through in the clutch when those situations arise? I think it does. You know what they say, practice makes perfect, right? And the Knicks, having been in those clutch situations for 36 minutes of this postseason so far, when the Pacers only had to face that adversity in 16 minutes, and 2 of those minutes were some of the all-time biggest collapses or I should say 3 of those minutes were 2 of the all-time collapses in basketball history by the Cleveland Cavaliers and in their first-round series as well. The Pacers against the Milwaukee Bucks. I think the Pacers are a great team. I think the Pacers are athletic. I think the Pacers can hit shots. I think the Pacers can run any team out of the gym. But if this game is, listen, if they build up a 20-someone point lead, I think the Pacers can go on to blow out anybody. It's kind of like what we used to say about the Golden State Warriors when they were in their prime. Like, they're 5 minutes away from blowing out anybody. But if the game is late, if it's close, late, and the clutch moments, the clutch minutes come into play, that's where I favor the New York Knicks. And in a game that is lined this close, in a series that is lined this close, I think it comes down to those clutch minutes, and that's why I'm taking the New York Knicks here in game number 1. But I've actually uncovered a best bet here. And so I'm going to go with a player prop in this game tonight. And I'm going to go with Karl Anthony Towns over 22.5 points. Now, all the talk, and I've been talking about it just as much as anybody, and maybe even more, has been about Jalen Brunson and how Jalen Brunson's been the guy to lead the New York Knicks. Where Jalen Brunson goes, the Knicks go. But at some point, Karl Anthony Towns is going to establish himself as the difference maker. And we want to talk about the trade, right? And Kat, both Minnesota and New York in the respective conference finals after that trade. I mean, it couldn't have worked out any better. But have we really seen Karl Anthony Towns put his stamp on a game just yet? This might be the game, and this might be the series that Karl Anthony Towns does that. In his career against Miles Turner, Karl Anthony Towns is averaging 28.9 points per game, 11.8 rebounds, and 2.5 assists. That's in 11 career games against Miles Turner, the center for the Indiana Pacers. 28.9 points per game in the 11 games that he has played against Miles Turner. And it kind of makes sense, right? From a basketball perspective, just thinking about it from an X's and O's standpoint. Miles Turner is more of a traditional center. And Karl Anthony Towns really thrives on pulling those traditional centers away from the basket. He likes to play a face-up game, not a post-up game. And so I think this is where Karl Anthony Towns separates himself. This is where the Knicks take advantage of a matchup that they view as very positive in their favor, a matchup that Karl Anthony Towns has thrived in the past. And so for my best bet, I'm going to go Karl Anthony Towns, cat, over 22.5 points in Game 1 tonight for the Knicks against the Indiana Pacers. Best bets are brought to you by G-Bank. Get the G-Bank Visa Signature Card today. Most credit cards treat sportsbook and gaming transactions as cash advances. That's even when you put your own money on the card. G-Bank treats gaming transactions as purchases, so you're saving up to 3 to 5% on cash advance fees on gaming transactions right there. Also with G-Bank, you're earning 1% cash back rewards on all eligible sportsbook and gaming transactions and 2% cash back rewards on all eligible purchases. Apply now at VSiN.com/GBank. That's VSIN.com/GBank. Coming up in a few minutes from now, we'll be joined by our very own Zach Cohen. You can read his work at VSiN.com, breaking down these NBA playoffs. I believe he's got a little CLV on his play for tonight, so we'll get his thoughts on that. And then also a little bit later on, we are going to be joined by our newest contributor over at VSiN.com, who is Dan Kirpak. Will join us on the program a little bit later on. We'll get his take on some player props for tonight, including one that he kind of agrees with me, because he is on, if you read his work at VSiN.com, he's got Karl Anthony Towns over points plus rebounds. So he's going over 34.5 points plus rebounds. I'm going over the 22.5 points. He's going over points plus rebounds. We're both rooting for the same thing here. So expecting a big night out of Karl Anthony Towns against Miles Turner and these Indiana Pacers. Still have about a half an hour or so away from tip-off of that game. Same thing with what's going on the ice between the Stars and the Oilers. We have Major League Baseball in progress right now. They're in the third inning, and the New York Mets, who are looking to avoid a sweep at the hands of the Boston Red Sox, have an early 1-0 lead over Garrett Crochet and those Boston Red Sox. It is the top of the third inning. The one run scored for the New York Mets, coming on a Brett Beatty single, scoring Mark Vientos. And they almost scored 2 runs, but there was a play at the plate, and Torrens was thrown out. So Mets lead 1-0 over the Red Sox. Meanwhile, your Nerfy cashed in the Bronx as the Rangers and Yankees are scoreless after one. Jacob deGrom is on the mound for the Rangers. I found this to be fascinating because the Yankees were favored in the game, but the Rangers were heavily favored in the first 5 innings because of the pitching matchup, with Jacob deGrom getting the start in this one against Ryan Yarbrough going for the Yankees. Not necessarily a traditional starter for the Yankees, but yeah, Jacob deGrom on the mound, no runs through 1 inning, and they're in the bottom of the first in Toronto. Blue Jays and Padres are scoreless. Still to come, the Phillies are at the Rockies looking to win Game 3 of a 4-game set. Angels are at the A's, and the Diamondbacks are at the Dodgers. That's all your Major League Baseball action coming up later on tonight. But coming up next, our very own Zach Cohen, betting on X is his handle, will join me, Scott Seidenberg, as we preview game number 1 between the Knicks and the Pacers right here on VSiN PrimeTime on the Sports Betting Network.
This is VSiN Primetime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on VSiN Primetime. I'm Scott Seidenberg here with you on the Sports Betting Network. About a half an hour or so away from tip-off of game number 1 of the NBA's Eastern Conference Finals from Madison Square Garden. The Knicks and the Pacers, the rivalry renewed. Joining us now in the progressive guest line is one of our very own, Zach Cohen. You read his work at VSiN.com. And Zach, you can follow him on Twitter at BettingOnX. Zach, I read your work at VSiN.com going on the under for tonight's game. You got some CLV, brother, as the total has been bet down now. Here at Circle, we're down to 220.5. What went into your play on the under? At that point, you were under 224. So what went into your play on the under? Because naturally, the market has agreed with you here.
Yeah, honestly, like that number, it was just too hard to pass on with the under. Like I saw a lot of people taking the over. You know, the way it opened was at 222 or so. So I felt like taking the under at that point made a lot of sense. I do think this is a series that the Knicks, when they are the home team, are going to be trying to play a little bit slower. You know, they've been playing at a pace that would have been the slowest in the regular season of any team, you know, including the Orlando Magic, who played at a very slow pace this season. And even the Pacers, who were third in the playoffs this season in playoff pace, they would have been, 17th or 18th in the regular season. So these are two teams that are playing very slow. Honestly, the entire pace of the entire postseason has been slow. I think all these teams are valuing the possessions a little bit more. Defense has been a little bit better. And I do think with the Knicks, especially, you don't want to get into a track meet with Indiana. They just have too many bodies. They're playing 9 guys, double digits in minutes. The Knicks are playing 7. If you don't want to run into a situation like last year where, players are getting injured and dropping like flies towards the end of it.
Do you think that's going to be the strategy for the Pacers, is to try and set that pace, and pun intended there, and try and run the Knicks ragged here, knowing that they have limited depth, knowing that Tibbs, even when they're up 30, plays his starters in the closing minutes of games? Do you think that's what Indy's going to try and do here and set the tone early in game one by pushing that pace?
I think they're going to try to. I think that the best case, scenario is they do run up and down the floor. They try to, press Jalen Brunson a little bit, which they have done in the past with TJ McConnell, just to get, any types of, tax on his body that you can would be a win. But I do think that the Knicks are going to be locked in when it comes to transition defense, especially at home. And like I said, I think that, the pace of play is going to be determined by who's playing at home. It's just easier to dictate tempo when you are playing on your home floor. So I think that the Pacers are going to try to play fast, but the Knicks are going to win out when they are playing at MSG.
How deep will this series go, in your opinion?
6 or 7. It's a coin flip for me, honestly. Like, I have a future on the Pacers to win the Eastern Conference. I hedged it pretty big with the Knicks just to make sure I'm profiting either way. It's a series that I could see going either way, honestly. I do think the Knicks probably get the job done in the end. I just think, the way that Anunoby and Bridges have started to play defensively, over the course of these last 2 weeks is huge. It's kind of what the Knicks envisioned when they built this roster. And Brunson, I believe, is a little bit better as a late game option than Halliburton, who is really clutching his own right. But, Brunson gets the buckets in ways that Halliburton doesn't. It's, mid-range. It's getting to the baskets, post-ups. It's not just the deep threes that Halliburton hits.
And that's the point that I was trying to make earlier, is that if in a series that is this closely lined, that is expected to be this tightly contested, it's going to come down to the clutch minutes. And the Knicks have played almost double the clutch minutes that the Pacers have played this entire postseason. And they have the clutch player of the year in Jalen Brunson. If we're saying that these games are going to come down to those important minutes, I favor the New York Knicks over the Pacers.
Yeah, and I also think the secondary options for the Knicks are a little bit more reliable. I mean, Pascal Siakam is a guy that's won an NBA title, but I don't think he's really lived up to what we thought he would be in Indiana offensively. I wouldn't quite go as far as Gilbert Arenas said on First Take or whatever, questioning Siakam as a player overall. But I do think he's going to have trouble in this series scoring on, OG Anunoby, who's a very strong wing defender that has given him trouble in the past. And, for as good as guys like Miles Turner are, these are guys that are catch and shoot guys, not ones that can go out and create their own buckets. I think the Knicks have a little bit more of that in Towns and, Mikal Bridges, who really woke up against the Celtics. I just trust the Knicks a little bit more offensively late in games.
I'm glad you brought up Miles Turner, and we're talking to our very own Zachary Cohen. I'm Scott Seidenberg. This is VSiN PrimeTime here on the Sports Betting Network. Read Zach's work at VSiN.com. Check him out on Twitter at BettingOnX. My best bet for this game is going to be Karl Anthony Towns over 22.5 points. In 11 career games against Miles Turner, he's averaging 28.9 points per game, almost 12 rebounds per game. And from an X's and O's standpoint, it makes sense because Miles Turner is a traditional center where Karl Anthony Towns likes to pull those centers away from the basket and play more of a face-up game. So I like Karl Anthony Towns to go off, not just in this game, but maybe in this entire series. Karl Anthony Towns finally puts his stamp for the New York Knicks.
Yeah, like you just said, I mean, Turner's one of the best rim protectors in the league, and this Pacers team, for as good as they were defensively, from December on, if you take Turner away from the rim, there's not going to be, any resistance in terms of getting to the basket. So if Towns is knocking down threes, keeping Turner away from the rim, it's going to be a lot easier for guys like Brunson to just go down there and score at will. So I think at the very least, Towns is going to be firing away from three tonight in a way that he was not doing against Boston. And on the flip side of that, like Turner is a traditional floor spacing big that really doesn't spend a lot of time, in the paint for a big man. So I think that there's opportunities, if Turner's knocking down his threes, for certain guys on the Pacers to, go to the basket, make some shots at the rim. And I do think that Andrew Nembhard is the one that I'd be looking at for Indiana. So I took over 17.5 points and assists there at -125. Nembhard's a guy that can be very difficult to keep out of the paint. He seems to always get a paint touch whenever he wants it. So I think that if, there is, lanes to the basket, he's going to find them. Also, in terms of assists, like he has been awesome throughout these playoffs in terms of dishing. He's at 9.8 potential assists per game throughout the postseason, 6.9 adjusted assists. I just see him racking up numbers in this series the way he did against Milwaukee and the way that he did in the last series.
We just flashed up the odds for the Eastern Conference Finals MVP up on the screen, and Jalen Brunson's your favorite. He's at +105. Karl-Anthony Towns, who I expect a big night from, maybe a big series from, is 13-1. Tyrese Halliburton is your favorite on the Pacers, +220 odds. And as much as I like to get cute, Zach, when it comes to things like this, and it's fun to have that 13-1 ticket in your pocket, or it's fun to have a 45-1 or a 50-1 ticket in your pocket, right? Just so you can, claim that you have it and you want to root for it. When it comes down to it, as much as I respect NBA writers, and I know a lot of them, we talk to a lot of them, they vote for the narrative. They vote for what the story is. There's no way the Knicks advance to the Eastern Conference Finals and Jalen Brunson's not the most valuable player of the series. So would you co-sign, rather than the -145 on the Knicks to win the series, betting Brunson at +105 to be the Eastern Conference Finals MVP?
Absolutely. This reminds me of like betting Mahomes to win MVP when the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. Like it's saving yourself, 30, 40 cents on something that will happen if they win. So this is definitely a clever way to play the Knicks. I would say on the Pacers side, there's actually more value like going elsewhere. If you think Indiana's going to win this series, I can see it not being Halliburton, only because like he's a guy that, he's really, really good when he's on. He does have a few games each series where he just completely disappears. So if you think that Turner or Siakam are going to consistently contribute over the course of a 6 or 7 game series, that's where it makes a little bit of sense. But I do think that Brunson +105 is maybe a better play than the Knicks to win the series.
Well, because let's be honest, like every writer's going to vote for him, right? And in the event that he does not play well enough so that the voters would consider somebody else, in that scenario, the Knicks don't beat the Pacers. So it's there's no one else that's going to win, because if he's not Jalen Brunson, then the Knicks don't win this series. While I have you, Zach, let's talk about the Western Finals, where the newly crowned MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, has the Thunder out to a 1-0 lead. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I'll put my words out here. The Thunder aren't losing this series. The Thunder are massive favorites to win the NBA title. It's just a matter of how many games before they win this series. Do you give Minnesota at least 1 win, maybe 2 wins in this series? Do you think this can get to a Game 6?
Yeah, so I have Minnesota futures. I thought that this series was going to be close, and I do think that the Timberwolves +2.5 would have been a good play before the series. Game 1 was a little shaky. I mean, Oklahoma City's defense in the second half was unbelievable, and I think that, we saw where the officiating comes into play is the Thunder. They're very physical with opponents. It's very difficult to call all of them for fouls. It makes it very difficult to score on them. So if you're Minnesota and what you did in Game 1 was jack up threes, jack up contested twos, you just did not create good offense. That's not going to work in Game 2. So the Timberwolves are going to need to attack the basket a little bit more in Game 2. They're going to need Edwards to be aggressive going to the rim. I do think Minnesota +7.5 if you could find it, is a good play in game 2, just because I think that the Timberwolves are bound to bounce back from the 3-point line. I know that, they took some bad shots in that game, but it's a really good 3-point shooting team. I mean, the guys that did not shoot well, Dante, Conley, Reed, these are guys that all shot 38% from 3 during the regular season. I think they're going to shoot better in game 2. I think that the Thunder have proven to be a kind of weak half-court offense, so I think it's going to be a closer game.
And the zigzag has been extremely profitable here in these NBA playoffs, so perhaps the way to go. Zach, appreciate the time and the insight. Good luck with your bets. Enjoy the game tonight.
Thank you. You too.
There he is, our very own Zach Cohen. Read his work at VSiN.com. I'm Scott Seidenberg. We continue here on Primetime on the Sports Betting Network.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is VSiN Primetime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Scott Seidenberg back here with you. This is VSiN Primetime here on the Sports Betting Network. Got some breaking news in the NFL as Adam Schefter and others have tweeted out the unfortunate news, the passing of Colts owner Jim Irsay at the age of, I believe he was, let's see, how old was Jim Irsay? 65 years old. That's too young. But yeah, the Colts announcing that Colts owner Jim Irsay passing away. So heavy hearts there in Indianapolis and all of Colts Nation as that news is cycling through the internet right now. Irsay was always a guy who was very active on social media, would always tweet out, giveaways for tickets, like different contests and things like that you can win tickets, and he would tweet things out to give fans an opportunity to come to the games. So, that's sad. We wish the very best for the Colts family there, as Jim Irsay has passed away at the age of 65. We are minutes away from tip-off between the Knicks and the Pacers at Madison Square Garden, and the puck dropping between the Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas Stars, Game 1 of the NHL's Western Conference Finals. Plus, we have Major League Baseball in progress right now that we are tracking. A couple of bets that I wanted to get to before we, move on from the NBA is the best bet that I gave out, which was Karl-Anthony Towns over 22.5 points for tonight's game against the Pacers. And if again, the numbers are against Miles Turner in his career, he's averaging 28.9 points per game, including a game in this November, in this season, where he scored 30 points. Karl-Anthony Towns did against Miles Turner. And then you go back to last year when Cat was with the Timberwolves. He had a 40-point game against Miles Turner. He had a 30-point game the year before that, a 27-point game the year before that, a 42-point game back in 2019. And then the fewest points he's ever scored has been 17. That was back in October of 2018. But in 2 games with the Knicks against the Pacers this season, 21 points for Cat and 30 points for Cat against Miles Turner. So 51 points in 2 games. It's an average of 25.5. I'm pretty good, pretty okay with that. We need 23 points from Karl-Anthony Towns tonight. The other bet that I placed is, if you look at series player props here, right now Jalen Brunson is the favorite to be the series points leader for the Knicks-Pacers series. Made 3-pointers, your favorite is Tyrese Halliburton at plus 220. I placed a bet on Deuce McBride of the Knicks at 75-1 to lead this series in 3-pointers. And before you say it's crazy, it really isn't. Because Deuce McBride is actually 3rd on the Knicks in 3-pointers made in this postseason. And if we look at, the opportunities that are going to be out there over the course of the season, Deuce McBride is a 2-for-5 guy, right? He averages 2 attempts per 2 made threes per game on about 5 attempts per game. That's his average. And in the playoffs, he's averaging, let's see, in the series against the Celtics, 2-for-4 was his average. And in the series against the Pistons, about 1-for-3 was his average. Now, he needs the time. He needs the minutes. And I think against the Pacers, in a series where maybe Indy looks to push the pace a little bit more and looks to play up-tempo, perhaps Tibbs uses his bench a little bit more. We know he doesn't typically use the bench a lot, but maybe in this series, he goes to the bench a little bit more. Deuce McBride, in all of these games, is hitting 2 threes. Like, here's his game logs against the Celtics. 2-for-5, 3-for-6, 2-for-3, 1-for-2, 1-for-2, 3-for-6. Okay. Can I get one Gary Trent Jr. game out of him? Can I get one game off the bench where Deuce McBride comes in and goes 5 of 7 from three-point range, or 6 of 8? Has the hot hand. If that happens, we're live here for this bet. But even if it doesn't happen, he still could get there if he just does like what he's been doing, 3-for-6. If he goes 3-for-6 in every game of this series, in a series that might go 7 games, he could be the series leader in three-pointers made. There are worse bets that I've made out there than a 75-1 on something that could, or maybe has a path to happen. Now, if he doesn't get the playing time, it's not going to happen. But I don't think it would shock anybody if Deuce McBride has like one of those games, because he's known to do that. We've seen that from him. He's a guy that is capable of having a game in which he drills a ridiculous number of threes. I mean, in this season alone, he's had games where he went 4 of 5. He went 5-for-12 one game. Let's see. Other big games from him, 3-point-wise. A lot of 4-for-9s. A lot of 4-for-6s, 4-for-5. So there's been games, lots of games where he's made 4. Just get me 3 per game. Give me 3 per game. I think we're okay. I think we're live. But we'll monitor that as we progress throughout the series. Other odds, your rebounds leader, Karl Anthony Towns, is minus 900. Josh Hart is plus 500. I kind of like that. Josh Hart's a guy that hustles. Josh Hart's a guy that loves to get rebounds. I think he could have double-digit rebounds tonight. I know his number is like 9.5, but I think Josh Hart's a guy that could get a ton of rebounds tonight, especially when you consider what we just talked about with the reason why we have the Karl Anthony Towns points bet is because he pulls the center away from the basket. So he pulls Miles Turner away from the basket, and that enables other guys to get rebounds. Now, if Karl Anthony Towns is playing away from the basket, then I don't like him to get the rebounds. I think Josh Hart at plus 500 is a sneaky good bet to lead this series in rebounds. Assist leader, I can't bet anybody but Tyrese Haliburton. He's at minus 225, makes total sense because he's the best facilitator of these two teams. He is the truest point guard of these two teams. Not going to bet Jalen Brunson, not going to bet Nembhard or Hart. It's Tyrese Halliburton's the guy that's going to get all the assists. So I would do assists, Tyrese Haliburton, rebound, and he's the favorite, so you got to lay the juice at minus 225. I'd go Josh Hart at plus 500 for the rebounds leader. Threes leader, I already got that long shot bet on Deuce McBride. Points leader, I mean, look, you're not going to make this. You're not going to place this bet. You're not going to bet minus 750 on Jalen Brunson, plus 340 on Karl Anthony Towns. I already like him to go over tonight. Maybe Cat leads the series in points. Don't think it's Haliburton because he's probably only going to get 17, 18 per game. You need a guy that's going to score into the 20s and have a couple of games where he's at 30, maybe more. And Jalen Brunson's that guy. Jalen Brunson's the guy that can get you a couple of 30, maybe even a 40-point game or so in this series. So there's really no one else to bet when it comes to those series market props for this series, Knicks and the Pacers. Let's update the market as we are closer and closer to tip-off here. And let's see. We got, what's the updated numbers here on the series? We'll get to that in just a moment as the line updates here. DK's got it at, right now, -4 and 221. So the 4.5 at DraftKings, at least, is gone, as it has gone to 4 at DraftKings. Knicks -4, and the total at DraftKings is 221. And let's see, I'm waiting for it to populate elsewhere to see if where there must be, maybe the 4.5s are leaving, and that's why I'm seeing it being pulled down here. I'll refresh the page. Let's see, current 4.5. Reduced VIG. Let's look at some other books here. We're at 4. We got a flash here. Maybe some movement. 4.5. Still 4.5. Still plenty of 4.5s. Still plenty of Knicks -4.5s. But as I mentioned, DraftKings does have them down to now -4. Circa still -4.5. And your total 221 at DraftKings, 221.5 now at Circa. Want to remind you guys, smarter bets start here and last all year long with VSiN Pro. Right now, sign up on an annual subscription. Get 14 months for just $1.99 when you use promo code PRO. That's 2 extra months for free for less than 50 cents a day. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber today. Get instant access to a daily email with the best bets from hosts and their guests, real-time betting splits from DraftKings and Circa Sportsbooks, 24/7 video access on the VSiN Watch app, plus full access to VSiN.com's analytics, betting trends, and expert breakdowns. Don't wait. Go to VSiN.com/subscribe. Use promo code PRO to lock in this offer. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. Coming up next, we'll get into the Stanley Cup playoffs, Western Conference Finals, Dallas and Edmonton. I'm Scott Seidenberg. It's primetime right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.